welcome to episode 41 of the Nigeria Football Weekly podcast with me, your host, Oluoke. I know there's been a bit of a break from last week, but glad to be back on the podcast. It's been yet another very, very eventful week in the world of Nigerian football and our players and all things concerning the Super Eagles. We also got the big news on Sunday night that Gernot Rohr has finally been sacked by the NFF, and Augustine Eguavoen has been hired as his interim replacement for the moment. So that's very interesting news. So I'll be touching on that, as well as touching on how our best players have performed in all their respective leagues in Europe. So yeah, let's get into it straight away. So on Sunday, as I said, the NFF confirmed that Gernot Rohr has finally been sacked. I mean, you could say it was pretty much inevitable at this point, considering the lackluster performances of the Super Eagles, especially in games which were expected to really dominate against so-called lower-ranked teams in Africa. Case in point, Central African Republic. Case in point, Cape Verde. Case in point, Sierra Leone last year. So I think it all just came to a head and it had to be gone. According to Oluwashina Okeleji of BBC Sport, the NFF cited that Gernot Rohr had created a toxic environment, hence the decision to terminate his contract. It's a bit of a sticky one because obviously African Cup of Nations is only 4 weeks away, starting on January 9th, and Nigeria will be facing Egypt in our first game. So you could argue that the timing is not exactly great, but as far as we know, it's an interim appointment. When they say interim, we don't know how long that's going to be, but it looks very, very likely that at the very least he will take charge of the Super Eagles for the Africa Cup of Nations and maybe potentially the March World Cup playoffs. But let's see on that one. In terms of Augustine Eguavoen's history with the Super Eagles, so it's his third stint in charge of the Super Eagles. He managed the team between 2005 and 2007 and took Nigeria to the 2006 Africa Cup of Nations. So he took over the team after Nigeria failed to qualify for the 2006 World Cup, and he was given the reins to take us to the Africa Cup of Nations in January 2006, where we finished in our customary third place, winning a bronze medal. And he also had another stint as caretaker coach in 2010 after Lars Lagerbäck was fired following a poor showing in the 2010 World Cup. I'm sure you all remember the Yakubu Aigbeni miss. In terms of his record previously for Nigeria, he's played, I think, a total of 15 games. He won 10 of those games, drew 1, and managed 4 defeats. One of that was obviously in the Africa Cup of Nations. But I don't believe he's managed any time since then. So it's a bit of a tricky one to really judge based on the past, because 2006 was so long ago. I mean, that's 15 years ago, so that's a lifetime in football, you could even say. Who is he in general? As Augustine Eguavoen is 56 years old. He was actually capped by Nigeria 49 times, so he played for the Super Eagles during the period of the Golden Generation. He made his caps between 1987 and 1998, and he was also part of the 1994 AFCON winning squad that won Nigeria's second ever Africa Cup of Nations, and he was also part of the World Cup squad that went to the 1994 as well as the 1998 World Cup. So in terms of clout, you like to think that he has that. He was previously the technical director of the NFF under Gernot Rohr, so you like to think he has a bit of a relationship with the players, and they must at least know who he is and know of his pedigree. So hopefully it all works out for the best. In terms of expectations, we know it's still a very, very talented squad. I don't think we should necessarily lower our expectations. Nigeria should always go to Africa Cup of Nations with the goal of winning the tournament. Yes, we're still looking to see if Victor Osimhen will be available or not. But that withstanding, I think he has to finish between first or third, considering that we've always been disappointed with getting the bronze medal. So let's see how he does in the Africa Cup of Nations. And if he'll also take charge of the match qualifiers. I've also heard some rumours that he's looking to invite players like Kelechi Nwakali and Alassane Youssouf. I'm all for Alassane Youssouf being called up to the national team. I think he deserves it. He's been playing very well in central midfield for Royal Antwerp, who are doing well in the Belgian League, and he's also been playing in the Europa League. Nwakali, I'm not so sure. I think Nigeria, there tends to be this nostalgia with players who do really well for our youth sides, especially in previous World Cups. So Nwakali being part of the team that won the Under-17 World Cup a few years ago, I think is playing into this a little bit, because when you look at his club form, I'm not necessarily sure he necessarily deserves a cap, considering he's playing in the Spanish Segunda. But we know number 10 is a bit of an issue, so maybe they're just trying to see where they could shore up things here and there. I also heard a really concerning rumor that Ogenyi Onazi is being considered to come back to the national team. I don't know what is with Nigeria, not just giving players their flowers once they've served the country and letting them stay there. They always seem to need to recycle players who are probably past their best. I mean, Ogenyo Nazi has not been at his best for the past 4 or 5 years. You could argue that he's past his peak as well. He's no longer playing for Lazio, and he actually got his contract terminated recently for his club in Turkey, although I think that might have been due to some payment issues. But that withstanding, I think his previous club was somewhere in Scandinavia, if I'm not mistaken, or Lithuania. So I'm not really sure about that one, but Nigeria and experience or leadership, I think that's the angle they're trying to go for with this one. And of course, he was part of the 2013 AFCON winning side, so maybe that also plays a part in their thinking. But anyway, that's the major news in terms of the national team. Big news. Gernot Rohr had been manager for well over 5 years. He's Nigeria's longest serving manager in history. And he did start really well. I mean, qualified us for the World Cup in 2018 with the breeze, to be honest. We beat Cameroon and Algeria very easily, and Zambia. He also had very impressive performances against Argentina in the friendly. We beat them 4-2. Played well against Brazil in 2019, so that was pretty good. AFCON, bar the Mahrez, free kick, you could say had a pretty decent tournament, although we did lose 2-0 to Madagascar, which is probably the first red flag that we probably got in terms of Gernot Rohr's limits as a manager. But over the last 2 years, it's just disintegrated. But I want to give him kudos for, the introduction of a lot of the diaspora talent that we currently have in the national team. And he seemed to be able to foster a sense of unity, even though he was left pretty limited in terms of the tactical department and also in terms of his authority in recent games. But anyway, we wish Super Eagles all the best. Once we get the list of the initial provisional squad for AFCON, we'll be sure to bring that to everybody, of course, and analyze the list, because today is Tuesday, December 14th. So we expect an announcement probably in the next 2 weeks, because AFCON starts on the 9th. So I'm sure we'll get a list for AFCON towards the end of December. But anyway, that's it in terms of Super Eagles news. And then quickly moving on to league reviews and how our players performed so far. So in the Premier League, I mean, I can only start with Emmanuel Dennis, man at the moment. Emmanuel Dennis' hot streak continued in the Prem. He now has 7 goals and 5 assists. So since the last podcast, they initially lost 3-1 at home to Manchester City last week, Saturday. Although Dennis did play well, but he didn't get on the score sheet in that game. And then last week, Friday, Watford went away to Brentford, and Emmanuel Dennis scored a really good header from a corner kick, which was his 7th goal of the season. Although, unfortunately, William Troost-Ekong gave away a last-minute penalty for Watford. So Brentford and Mbuemo tucked away the penalty, even though Watford were leading the match up onto the 83rd minute. So what that means is out of Claudio Ranieri's 9 games, they've lost 7 and they've won 2, even though Dennis continues to shine. In terms of Troost-Ekong's form, he's the polar opposite of Emmanuel Dennis. Honestly, I really wanted Ekong to do well in the Prem, but he is struggling. Like, he has been in absolutely terrible form for the past month now, and it's very concerning, especially as they sit just 2 points above the relegation zone. He even lost his place in the team to Nkulu, but unfortunately Nkulu got injured, which meant Troost-Ekong had to be brought into the side, and it's just been shambolic display after shambolic display, and I really feel for him. I hope he's able to recover his form somehow, because Lord knows he needs to do that. But anyway, next up for Watford, they go away to Burnley tomorrow night on Wednesday. Premier League's got midweek fixtures this week. As we get into the festive December fixtures, how Premier League love to do it, man. Football for everybody. And then on Saturday, they're at home to Crystal Palace at a 3 p.m. kickoff. So hopefully we can see Emmanuel Dennis continue to kick on from where he's been so far. No player has more goal contributions than Emmanuel Dennis, apart from Mohamed Salah in the Premier League. With Emmanuel Dennis' 7 goals and 5 assists. I'm sure he'll be on the plane to AFCON, which is a boost for Nigeria, especially if Osimhen is not able to recover in time for the tournament. Moving on to Leicester City. Leicester City are now 8th in the Prem. So the previous week they lost 2-1 to Aston Villa, and it was a bit of a disappointing display. And then they went out of the Europa League on Thursday after losing 3-2 to Napoli, with Wilfred playing both games. However, they did get back to winning ways over the weekend. They comfortably beat Newcastle 4-0 this past Sunday. Although Kelechi Iheanacho missed both games because he's been he's tested positive for COVID. So we wish Kelechi a speedy recovery, and hopefully we can see him get some game time for Leicester soon ahead of AFCON. Next up for them, Leicester City play Tottenham Hotspur on Thursday. Tottenham have had their last 2 fixtures cancelled because of COVID, but you like to think that they'll have enough players who've sufficiently recovered to be able to fulfill this fixture. And then on Sunday, we see Leicester City go away to Everton, so it will be against Kelechi and Ndidi, and that's going to be a 12 noon fixture on Sunday. Moving on to Frank Onyeka and Brentford, they're now up to 11th place in the Prem. He's been a substitute for their past 2 games, to be fair. So the previous week, they drew 2-2 away to Leeds United. They were actually on course to win the game until Patrick Bamford scored a last-minute goal from a corner kick, literally last minute of the game, which was pretty disappointing. And then in the game on Friday against Watford, he came on for the final 14 minutes to help them push on to win the game. So you could argue that Frank Onyeka played a part in providing the spark that led to Brentford's comeback. Hopefully we'll see him break back into the starting XI, which it'll be good to see, because I think we can really do with Frank Onyeka getting into some good form, because he plays well for Nigeria, and I can see a scenario where he starts with Ndidi and then we give Aribo more room to roam, especially considering Aribo's stunning form, which I'll get into later. But earlier today, Tuesday night, Brentford were scheduled to play Manchester United originally, but that game got postponed because Manchester United have COVID-19 issues. So Brentford's next game is away to Southampton at 3 p.m. on Saturday. And then finally, Alex Iwobi, it's been a treacherous time for Everton, to be honest. Although they finally won their first game in 7 games last week, Monday, against Arsenal. They were pretty impressive and they deserved their win, to be fair. Although Alex Iwobi only came on for the final 4 minutes of that game. Initially, who scored for Arsenal in that game? I think it was Martin Odegaard. And then Richarlison had 2 goals disallowed before he finally scored a rebounded header after the 80th minute. And then with the last kick of the game, Demarai Gray scored an absolute worldie from outside the box to win that game. But over the weekend on Sunday, Everton went back to their usual behaviour. They lost 3-1 away to Crystal Palace. Conor Gallagher was absolutely brilliant. He scored 2 great goals in that game. And Iwobi was an unused sub in that game as well. So it's not looking good for Iwobi in terms of opportunities for Everton. To be honest, his club career since he left Arsenal has been a bit of a dud, to be honest. It leaves a lot to be desired. We can't keep relying on him to maintain his reputation based on international performances. And I'm sure he knows that as well. So we'll see what happens for him. But it doesn't get any easier for Everton. Next up for them, they go away to Stamford Bridge on Thursday night. So you can pretty much mark that one as an L, to be honest. And then on Sunday, they of course play Leicester City at home at Goodison Park. So I wish them all the best, and hopefully Iwobi could get back into form for the club. In terms of game week 16 results, so over the weekend, in the games that did not include Nigerian players, we saw Manchester City beat Wolves 1-0. Courtesy of a penalty by Raheem Sterling. You consider it pretty unfortunate with João Moutinho. The ball hit João Moutinho pretty much between his rib cage, I guess. And I don't really think it touched his arm, so you'd have thought VAR would have overruled that, but they didn't, which is pretty unfortunate. Arsenal beat Southampton 3-0. I was lucky to be at the game, which was great. It seems like every time I go to the Emirates, Arsenal keep winning the games. So I'm not saying I'm a good luck charm, but I'm not going to complain. We had goals by Alex Lacazette, Martin Odegaard, and Gabriel, who scored from a corner kick. Chelsea beat Leeds United 3-2 after Antonio Rudiger got 1-2 penalties for Chelsea, which Jorginho tucked away, including one in the last minute of the game. Liverpool beat Aston Villa 1-0 in Gerrard's return to Anfield, courtesy of a Mohamed Salah penalty. And then Manchester United beat Norwich 1-0 on Saturday as well, courtesy of Cristiano Ronaldo penalties. So out of all the 5 games on Saturday, 4 were literally decided by penalties, apart from the Arsenal game. And then on Sunday, we saw Burnley and West Ham draw 0-0. And the Brighton and Tottenham game got postponed due to COVID-19 issues as well. So in terms of this current game week, because I mentioned their midweek fixtures, we had 2 Premier League games earlier today. Norwich lost 2-0 to Aston Villa at home. Ollie Watkins got on the score sheet, as well as, who scored the first goal? Jacob Ramsey. He scored an excellent goal, to be fair to him. Great goal. And then Manchester City absolutely wiped the floor over Leeds United, 7-0. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne was in sensational form. Phil Foden was in sensational form. To be honest, the whole Man City team was just on fire. Like, everybody was balling. Mahrez started the game as well. He was excellent. Although the one player I had in my FPL from Man City, Bernardo Silva, got taken off at halftime. So I don't know if that was based on injury, but you win some, you lose some. I did have Ollie Watkins in my team though, so no complaints from me. In terms of Premier League games coming up, so tomorrow, Wednesday, Brighton play Wolverhampton at 7:30. We'll see the Watford boys away to Burnley at 7:30 as well. Crystal Palace play Southampton at 7:30 as well. And my Arsenal guys are at home against West Ham in a crucial fixture. It's literally fourth against sixth. If Arsenal win, we go above West Ham or we go into fourth place. Although Arteta and Arsenal announced today that they've dropped Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as captain. I think it's a bit of a farce, but I'm not going to get into it because this podcast is not about Arsenal. But all I know is Arsenal need to win, and that would shut everybody up, including myself. And then on Thursday, apart from the Leicester and Tottenham game involving our Super Eagles players, there's also the Chelsea and Everton game involving Alex Iwobi, of course, and then Liverpool host Newcastle at Anfield. So if I was a betting man, I'd say that'd be a 4-0 thrashing, I'd say. And then over the weekend, once this game week ends, we also have another set of Premier League fixtures, so the grind don't stop. On Saturday in the early kickoff, we've got Manchester United against Brighton. I need Ronaldo to be back for that because he's going straight back into my FPL team. Aston Villa play Burnley in one of the 3 p.m. kickoffs. Southampton play Brentford at home. Watford play Crystal Palace. Watford are the home team. We'll see Emmanuel Dennis playing that one. And West Ham United host Norwich at 3 p.m. as well. Arsenal actually go away to Leeds United. I mean, if there's any team that seems to revive teams after they've performed woefully, it seems to be Arsenal. Everton have played 8 games and lost 7, but they managed to win 1 against Arsenal. Leeds United have just lost 7-0 and look in really bad form. Mind you, they have a bunch of injuries as well. But I'm hoping Arsenal could prove me wrong and actually win the game. So let's see. And then on Sunday, we obviously have the Super Eagles derby with Everton versus Leicester. Wolverhampton also hosts Chelsea at the 2 p.m. kickoff. Newcastle hosts Manchester City, what should be another Pep masterclass, probably expected. And then in probably the big game of the weekend, Tottenham hosts Liverpool. So that should be a cracking tie. Antonio Conte against Jurgen Klopp. And that's it in terms of the Premier League fixtures for this week. Moving on to the rest of the fixtures in Europe, apart from the Premier League, starting with the Bundesliga. Taiwo Awoniyi scored his 9th league goal of the season last week Friday as Union Berlin beat RB Leipzig 2-1 at home. And then last week Thursday, he also started he came off the bench in the UEFA Conference League in a 1-1 draw against Slavia Prague. And then over the weekend, oh my God, I don't know what happened, but he played 33 minutes as Union Berlin somehow lost 1-0 to Greuther Fürth, who are the worst team in the Bundesliga. They had 1 point before this weekend, and somehow Union Berlin lost to this team 1-0 away. So Greuther Fürth won their first league game of the season. So no goals for Awoniyi over those games, but still an impressive return so far. 9 goals from 15 appearances. Next up for Taiwo Awoniyi, they've also got midweek Bundesliga games. So tomorrow night on Wednesday, they're at home to Freiburg, who have been doing really well in the league. And then on Saturday, they go away to VfL Bochum. So that should be a tricky tie, but you'd like to believe Union Berlin should bounce back and get some points on the board from these games. Moving on to Kevin Boguma, and Hoffenheim are now 4th in the Bundesliga. So shout out Kevin Boguma and Hoffenheim. Currently sitting in one of the Champions League spots, of course. They got back-to-back victories since the last podcast with Kevin Boguma starting at right wing back. I hope someone at the NFF is watching this man, because if I see Moses Simon play right wing back again, it's not going to be funny, I'm telling you. But anyway, they beat Eintracht Frankfurt 3-2 at home last week Saturday, and then over this past weekend they beat Freiburg 2-1 away, with Boguma starting both games. Next up for them though, it's a bit of a tricky time on Wednesday night, so they go away to Bayer Leverkusen, so that should be a bit of a top of the table / battle for top 4 clash, so to speak. And then on Saturday they're at home to Borussia Mönchengladbach, who have had a bit of a rough patch over the last few weeks. So you like to think Hoffenheim could continue their good run of form. And then finally, as I mentioned, Greuther Fürth, they did win their first Bundesliga game of the season on Sunday against Union Berlin, with Dixon Abiyama actually starting the game. However, the previous weekend, they got battered 7-1 to Leverkusen away. Yeah, that's how bad they are. But fair play to them. They got a victory on the board. So kudos to them. It doesn't get any easier for them though. Next up for them tomorrow night, they go away to Borussia Dortmund to face Erling Haaland and company, and then they'll be playing Marussia. Then they'll be playing Aalborg at home on Saturday. So we wish them all the best in that fixture. In Ligue 1, Moses Simon was excellent over the weekend. So on Friday night, he actually scored a last-minute winning goal for Nantes in their 3-2 win over Lens. Great goal as well. Like cutting, like I said, play him as a left winger if you're gonna play him for Nigeria, rather than making him look bad for the national team. He cut in into the box, shifted to his right foot, and just bent the ball literally into the top corner. Fantastic finish, and he did his bicycle kick. So it was the second league goal of the season for Nantes. Even though he's been getting a lot more assists, I think he's scored 6 assists so far. But the previous week, they also beat Lorient 1-0. So Nantes are in a good rich vein of form at the moment. They currently sit 10th in Ligue 1. Next up for them, they've got the French, the Coupe de France this weekend. So they go away to Sochaux on Saturday. So you like to think that should be a routine victory for them. Moving on to Termination and Lorient. Oh my God, it is not going well at all for Lorient or Termination. They're currently now 19th in Ligue 1. It's just been a disaster. So after losing to Nantes in the previous week, they followed it up this weekend with a 4-1 loss away. And they've just been bad, man. Like, honestly, Lorient have been bad. Like, I don't even know what to say about them. Like, Termination, they haven't scored a goal as a team for at least 4 games. And Termination has now... so they lost to Metz. This 4-1 game was a loss to Metz. They're now 14th in the league. They haven't scored a goal in over 4 games, apart from this 1 goal they scored against Metz. And Termination has not scored a goal in 12 league games for Lorient. That's so bad. He's got 2 goals this season, and one of those goals was a penalty. So it's very, very unlikely he's going to be called up for AFCON. And to be fair, he doesn't deserve to be at this point. Although the silver lining is last season, he scored all his 14 league goals from December. He scored 1 in December. And then from about February till May, he just went on a ridiculous vein of form. So I'm hoping he could have a similar impact towards the end of the season next year. But so far, it's not looking so good. And I'm hoping he could just at least put himself out there so he could get out of Lorient, because it's looking like they might be relegated the way it's currently going. And anyway, this weekend in the Coupe de France, they play Rennes away. So they're more than likely going to lose that game. I don't want to be a bit of doubting Thomas, but it's not looking good for them at all. But we wish Termination all the best, and hopefully he can recapture some of that form that made him become a Super Eagle, as well as get touted around by a lot of journalists around Europe. Moving on to Syria, Olaina started a game last week Monday for Torino. They drew 1-1 away against Cagliari. And then on Sunday night, he was on new substitute as Torino beat Bologna 2-1. They're now 13th in Serie A. They're also in action in Coppa Italia this midweek. So on Thursday, they go away to Sampdoria. And then in Serie A on Sunday, they're at home against Verona. David Okereke and Venezia. David Okereke actually got injured last weekend, the weekend before this one, in a 4-3 loss for Venezia at home to Verona. He had to leave the pitch after just 6 minutes, and he hasn't featured for Venezia since then, so we wish him a speedy recovery. Meanwhile, Taranabui played 25 minutes in that 4-3 loss. And then this Saturday, they actually bounced back and got a credible 1-1 draw at home to Juventus. So shout out to them. Ebuehi actually started that game as well. So, I mean, if you're doing that against Juventus, that's a good sign. And then earlier today in the Coppa Italia, they beat a team called Ternana. I believe they're a Serie B team, 3-1 in the Coppa Italia. Although Ebuehi was rested for that game. Anyway, over the weekend, they'll be playing Sampdoria away on Sunday in Serie A. And then moving on to Udinese. Udinese currently sit in 15th place. Last week, Monday, they lost 3-1 to Empoli. But Isaac Success did get the assist for Udinese's goal in that game. And then on Saturday, they got a credible draw at home against AC Milan. Although Isaac Success came on in the 70th minute and somehow managed to get a red card. I don't know what the hell he did in that game, but yeah, he's suspended for the weekend game against Cagliari away on Saturday. But earlier tonight, though, they beat Crotone 4-0 in the Coppa Italia, and Isaac Success got a goal via the penalty spot. So shout out to him for, putting the red card behind him so quickly. And then finally, Salernitana, bottom of the league in Serie A. It's not going well at all. Last week, Saturday, they lost 2-0 to AC Milan. And then this weekend, they followed it up with another loss, this time 4-0 away to Fiorentina. Dusan Vlahovic got himself another goal in that game. And then earlier tonight, they lost again in the Coppa Italia after crashing out to a 1-0 loss away to Genoa. Next up for them, it doesn't get any easier. On Friday night, they actually play Inter Milan, who are currently top of Serie A. So good luck to them, first against last. It's not looking good for Joel Obi and Simeone at all. One thing to just mention, as Osimhen is injured for Napoli, since he got injured, they've dropped from first to fourth in the league. They lost their last game against Empoli this weekend, and it's just not been looking good. They also lost their previous game to Atalanta in the league. So back-to-back losses, and their game before that, they also drew. However, in the Europa League, the draw for the round of 32 happened on Monday, and Victor Osimhen will be facing Barcelona in February. So that's one tie to look forward to. I mean, talk about building a reputation. You go to, the new camp and do your thing. No matter what, people are still going to watch and see what you've done. So we wish Osimhen a speedy recovery. I know he's also back in training, so hopefully he could get fit. I think AFCON may be too soon, or even if he was going to be fit, I doubt Napoli will let him go, but let's see, because if there's one player we know is committed to playing for the Super Eagles, we know it's Victor Osimhen, so watch this space. And Kingsley Michael at Bologna is also still injured. In La Liga, the main sole representative to talk about is, of course, Samuel Chukwueze. So in the previous week, they lost 1-0 to Sevilla away, with Samuel Chukwueze coming on as a substitute for the last 19 minutes. And then over the last week, on Thursday, their initial game got postponed from Wednesday. They actually beat Atalanta 3-2 away. Very, very impressive win, which meant that they've qualified for the Champions League knockout stages. Chukwueze was on the bench for this game. He didn't get any minutes. And then on Sunday, they actually got back on track in the league with a 2-0 win against Rayo Vallecano. He came on for the last 29 minutes in this game, so it's safe to say Chukwueze under Unai Emery is a bit of a super sub. He keeps replacing Yeremy Pino, the Spanish international, 19 years old. Really, really good player, to be fair. So watch this space, because I thought this was a big, big season for Chukwueze. But anyway, he's the only Nigerian player who's still in the Champions League, so we wish him well. And the draw was done on Monday, and Villarreal will be playing Juventus in the round of 16 in February. So we wish him all the best. Next up for Villarreal, they play in the Copa del Rey second round away to Atletico San Luqueno this Wednesday, tomorrow. And then on Saturday, they go away to Real Sociedad, which will be a very, very tough fixture. They're still struggling in the league because they're currently 12th, but I just want Chukwueze to shine, honestly. Just to round up the podcast with all the performances from our players not playing in the top 5 leagues in Europe, starting with Porto as usual. Zedu Sanusi is now firmly back in the starting lineup for Porto, which is good to see. Last week, they beat Portimonense 3-0 away, and they were very unlucky to get knocked out of the Champions League over the midweek last week. They lost 3-1 to Atletico Madrid at home, even though they dominated the game. So they dropped into the Europa League, so we'll be seeing Zedu Sanusi play in the Europa League come February. Zedu Sanusi started both of those games, and then on Sunday, Porto beat Braga 1-0, with Zedu Sanusi coming off the bench in that one. Next up for them, they're currently still first in the league, so that's positive. But next up for them, they play in the Portuguese Cup on Wednesday against Rio Ave. And then on Sunday, they go away to Vizela. In the Dutch Eredivisie, Cyril Dessers Feyenoord are now up to third. They're currently level on points with Ajax and 1 point behind PSV. So it looks like we've got a very interesting title race in Netherlands. Last week, he came off the bench as they beat Fortuna Sittard 5-0. And then on Thursday, Cyril Dessers scored yet again in a 2-1 win over Maccabi Haifa in the UEFA Conference League. And then over the weekend, he came off the bench again as Feyenoord drew 1-1 away to Groningen. It's a bit of a shame because if they won the game, they would have gone top of the league. But anyway, they've got 20 away in the Dutch Cup on Wednesday, tomorrow. And then there's a tasty tie on Sunday as Feyenoord will be hosting Ajax Amsterdam in a top-of-the-table clash. Unfortunately, Maduka Akui is still injured for Sparta Rotterdam. He's missed their last 4 games. We'll be keeping an eye to make sure he's hopefully back for AFCON, because I don't think it was that serious that he was going to miss AFCON, but he hasn't played for a while, so watch this space. In the Belgian League, Alassane Youssouf's Royal Antwerp, they're doing well. I think they're currently third at the moment. They beat Berchut 1-0 away last week Sunday, and then in Europa League on Thursday, Alassane Youssouf came on for 4 minutes as they crashed out of the tournament. They beat, I think it was Fenerbahce or Olympiacos, one of those two teams. They beat them 1-0, but they crashed out of the tournament as they were already bottom of the table. And then on Sunday, he came back in the starting lineup as they lost 3-2 at home to Standard Liège, who are struggling in the league. But what that meant is they've lost their grip on second spot in the league. However, they've also got midweek games as we get close to Christmas. They play Eupen at home on Thursday night. And then on Sunday, we've got Polonuaciu's Genk hosting Royal Antwerp in the league. Speaking of Genk, they are struggling this season. They're currently 11th in the Belgian league. Honestly, it's really treacherous. Even though Onuachu still scored 10 goals on all competitions for them. They drew 1-1 to Mechelen away last week Sunday. They crashed out of the Europa League on Thursday because they lost 1-0 at home to Rapid Vienna, even though they had home advantage. That was just terrible. And then on Sunday, they lost 1-0 away to Ghent. So really, really bad. They're in 11th place. Onuachu played all of these games, even though he came off the bench for the first 2 games mentioned. But no goals scored. A bit of a mini goal drought going on there. They're also on to the Scottish League, and we've got Super Joe Aribo, who's been in excellent form. Like, honestly, guys, Joe Aribo has been killing it in the league for Rangers. So the last week Saturday, they beat Dundee 3-0. With Joe Aribo scoring a goal in the 3-0 win. And then he got rested in the Europa League on Thursday. They drew 1-1 against Lyon. He didn't get rested. He came on for the last 23 minutes, but he was being reserved because they'd already qualified for the next round. I actually think Rangers are going to play Dortmund, so that should be a very good tie. And then over the weekend, they beat Hearts 2-0 away with Joe Aribo scoring an absolutely stupendous goal. In fact, he's my star boy of the week for sure. Long ball was punted forward, and Joe Aribo chested the ball, literally shrugged the defender off, and just used his left foot to bang it into the bottom corner. Fantastic goal. So it was his 6th league goal of the season. He's actually Rangers' top goal scorer, and he scored 4 league goals in his past 5 games. So really, really incredible form. Also, Calvin Bassey has played 90 minutes in all these 3 games, and as far as I'm concerned, he should be back in the national team for sure if anyone's doing their job properly at the NFF. Leon Balogun's unfortunately been injured over this period as well. They've also got a midweek tie on Wednesday. They play St. Johnstone at home on Wednesday. And then on Saturday, they also play Dundee United at home. So we'll be looking to see Joe Aribo continue his excellent form. In the Turkish league, Anthony Narkemes Trabzonspor continued to lead the league. He got a goal and an assist in a 2-0 win over Adana Demirspor last week, Saturday. And then over the weekend, he came on for 27 minutes as they unfortunately lost 2-1 away to Antalyaspor. But they continue to top the table by 9 points, and they're on course to win the title. Next up for them, they play Hatayspor at home on Saturday. Osai Samov Fenerbahce, he started as they beat Rizespor last week Sunday 4-0. And then he came off the bench last Thursday in the Europa League as they drew 1-1 against Eintracht Frankfurt in the Europa League. And then he got an assist on Monday as they lost 3-2 away to Gaziantep. He actually assisted Mesut Ozil, who scored one of those his trademark goals where he kind of hits the ball to the ground and it bounces over the goalkeeper. Doesn't get any easier for them though. Their next game is away to Besiktas on Sunday. Ahmed Musa and Fatih Karagümrük, they're now 11th in the league. Ahmed Musa continues to play a bit part role coming off the bench in their last 2 games. They lost 3-1 to Giresunspor away last week Sunday. And then he also came on for 33 minutes as they lost 4-1 at home to Konyaspor over the weekend. Next up for them, they play Göztepe away on Sunday. Unfortunately, Chidozie Awaziem at Alanyaspor, he's been injured for their past 3 games. So we'll keep an eye out to see if he could get back to fitness soon. In the Russian league, Chidera Ejike continues to start games for CSK Moscow. Last weekend, the weekend before this last one, he got a super assist for his club away to Krylia Sovetov. He dribbled 4 players, assisted the ball, went to the byline and just crossed the ball towards the middle of the 6 for his strike, for one of the strikers for CSK to put the ball into the bottom corner, which was just a fantastic goal to be honest. And then CSKA Moscow also won 2-0 away on Saturday against Arsenal Tula. And they've moved up to 4th in the table. Now the Russian league is on a Christmas break until early February. So HK can just focus on getting himself ready for AFCON. Although you'd like to see him have played a few more games between now and the end of December. In the Greek league, Henry he's still got no goals or assists in the league. He's playing a bit of a bit part role. I don't expect him to make the AFCON squad, to be honest. He came off the bench for 11 minutes in a 3-1 win over OFI away last week, Saturday. And then he started in the Europa League 1-0 loss to Real Antwerp on Thursday. And then this weekend, he came off the bench for 9 minutes as they beat Aris Salonika 1-0. They continue to top the Greek league, though, so that's positive. They've also got a midweek game tomorrow on Wednesday. They play Atromitos away, and then they play Lamia at home on Sunday. In the Czech league, Peter Olajinka, Slavia Prague continue to lead the league. He started in a 2-0 win over the weekend against Mlada Boleslav. They've also got a midweek game on Wednesday in the Czech Cup at home to Zlin. And then they go away to a team called Banik away on Sunday. In the Swedish league, Innocent Bonke's Malmo became champions of Sweden in the final home game of the season. They drew 0-0 against Halmstad, so they've been officially crowned champions. However, they still had one more game in the Champions League last week, which they lost 1-0 away to Juventus. So they've also got no games until February. And I think Innocent Bonke is a bit of a... He's in the mix to make the AFCON squad, so let's see what happens for him and getting his place in that team. And then finally, in the Cypriot League, we've seen Francis Zoho finally start games, a lot more games for Omonia Nicosia. So last week Sunday, him and Abdullah Shehu started as they beat AEL away 1-0. And then in the UEFA Conference League on Thursday, Francis Zoho actually saved the penalty and made 3 other saves as they drew 0-0 at home to Kairat, with Iyaya Temwen Belief coming off the bench. And then over the weekend, Francis Zoho and Abdullah Shehu both started the game as they drew 1-1 at home to AEK Lanaka. Not the weekend, it was on Monday night, sorry. Next up for them, they play a team called Doxa away on Sunday. And that's it in terms of the roundup of all our players in Europe. In terms of Star Boy of the Week, I have to give a shout out to Dennis. Yet another goal in the Prem, 7 goals for the season, enhanced his reputation. All the journalists are beginning to take notice of him whenever they talk about Watford, which is just awesome to see. They're speaking about him on Match of the Day, everywhere, literally. Dennis is on fire. Dennis the Menace, literally. But I have to give it to Joe Aribo. I mean, 2 goals in back-to-back league games, 4 goals in his past 5 league games for Rangers, and his goal was honestly excellent. Like, there's even an argument that he's the best player in the whole of Scotland right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last season for Rangers. Especially, I think his contract winds down for June, or maybe he has one more year left. But I won't be surprised if we see like Steven Gerrard picking him up, for example, at Aston Villa. But shout out Super Joe Aribo, our star boy of the week. In terms of ones to watch for the weekend and the week, Watford play Burnley away tomorrow night, so we're looking to see Emmanuel Dennis continue his good form. And then they play Crystal Palace on Saturday. Everton play Chelsea on Thursday night, so hopefully Alex Iwobi could get some game time. And Leicester also face Tottenham on Thursday. I'm sure Ndidi will start that game, and hopefully Kelechi might be back from COVID as well. And then on Sunday at 12 noon, we've got Everton playing Leicester City, so it will be against Kelechi and Ndidi. In the German Bundesliga, Taiwo Awoniyi plays Freiburg at home tomorrow night, so let's hope he could get his 10th league goal of the season. And then they go away to Bochum on Saturday. In the Dutch Eredivisie, we've got Cyril Dessers Feyenoord playing Ajax Amsterdam on Sunday, so that's a big top of the table clash. And then finally, we got Polonaciu's Genk hosting Alassane Youssouf's Antwerp on Sunday in the Belgian League. So that's it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks again for rocking with me. I know it's been a bit of a long one, but there was a bit more to cover. We wish Super Eagles all the best with Augustine Eguavoen's tenor in charge now. I mean, all guns blazing towards AFCON now. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nigeria Football Weekly, and spread the word. You can follow us on our social media channels at NFWPOD on Twitter, at Nigeria Football Weekly on Instagram, on Facebook at facebook.com/Nigeria Football Weekly. And you can also email us if you have any suggestions or thoughts that you want to get across, NigeriaFootballWeekly@gmail.com. I appreciate every single listener. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week to round up the next set of fixtures. Peace out. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and click the bell to get a notification whenever we drop a video. You can also find our social media channels listed below. And of course, up Super Eagles and Nigeriano they ever carry last.